Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. Today we're talking about 1, 2, 3 blocks. These have become more and more useful to me recently, and I thought I would show you some of the ways that I use them in the shop. Let's dive in. In the metalworking and machining world, these are used all the time. They're very, very simple. They weigh about a pound each, and so they're great for, holding things down and being just a paperweight. But they also have a lot of other uses. They are exactly 1 inch by 2 inch by 3 inch, and you can get them in a metric version. They also have holes so you can bolt them down to a surface. Great if you're working on a mill and you need to lock something down and have other hold downs onto it. And some of them even have bolt holes so you can thread things together and lock them into different shapes. So I always thought these were a metalworking tool, and when I did all of my machining, these were something that I always used. But I see them popping up in woodworking shops all over the place, and it makes me wonder, why would you use these for woodworking? So I got a couple of them and thought, let's see if they work their way into my workflow. And yes, they have. I like these things. Number one, if I want to quickly check that something is square, this is what I grab now rather than using a square. Or if I want to check that my square is actually square, I can check this on there, and it's very, very quick and accurate. Generally, if I'm checking the inside corner, this is what I'm going to use. Or if I want to glue something together and have it at an inside corner, I can clamp to this and clamp to this and lock it down. It is a very quick and easy block to have in there, and you know that it is perfectly square and the sizes are exactly accurate. Originally, I thought, for a woodworker, they really don't have a whole lot of use for hand tools, because with power tools, they're great. Anytime you need to set a fence off by 1 inch, by 2 inch, by 3 inch, or by 4 inch, by 5 inch, or by 6 inch, you have 1, 2, 3 blocks that make it very easy to actively set things off a certain distance. So they are quick at referencing putting your fence away from the saw blade or making sure that your fence is actually 90 degrees to the table. So for power tools, these are incredibly useful and come out all the time. But for hand tools, are they really going to work into my normal hand flow for things that aren't just using a square? Yeah, I can use them to check an inside square or make sure that a square is square, but if that's the only thing that I've got other tools to do that. I don't need these. Then the other day I had some magnets that were rolling around at the bench, and one of them went pop inside the hole. And I thought, wait a second, I've seen that before. That's actually a chisel guide. So inside the hole there are a few magnets, and now what that does is it holds my chisel on there at 90 degrees. So if I need to chop down a mortise and make sure it's exactly at 90 degrees, this holds it in place. And I can make sure it's incredibly accurate because it's a much taller surface. This is something that, if I want to make sure I'm getting a precise and accurate cut with a chisel, so it goes really quickly just to have that magnet in there, holds it on this, and I can then chop down exactly 90 degrees rather than trying to mess with a square or eyeballing it. This actually works really, really well. So I've got a view of these things that I've 3D printed up, and I have a couple that I've made in wood that are the exact same thing. And these are great for locking down corners, so you can actually put a clamp on here and clamp on here. The problem with them is they tend to be a bit light and they slide around on the bench. It's not a huge thing, but it does get a bit annoying. If you bump them, they slide. Whereas with one of these are heavy enough that they just kind of lock down to the bench. It makes it a lot easier to then clamp across and lock things in. And I tend to trust this being square a little bit more than this. I don't know if it's just me being picky, but this is something I can trust, and I know it's where it needs to be. Also, if I'm doing boxes with higher walls, being able to stand this up and have a larger reference surface, or even being able to put a second one in here and have a much larger reference surface, makes this a very solid device to lock things to and know that my corners are where they need to be. The other day I was laying out a surface and I wanted something to be square to the bench, but it was sliding around even more than one of these, so I just grabbed the hold fast, locked it down, and now I've got something I know is 90 degrees to the bench, so I can do my work on that. It actually became a planing stop because it's in there really solidly. It's kind of a neat introduction to this. And I even thought about, with the tapped holes on here, I could put in a dog that I could put a screw in and put that down into the hole and create a stop that could come out. And I'm probably going to do that, I just haven't gotten around to it. There's a lot of other ideas that I thought about that, the more I use these, the more I find places that I want to use them. Is it a tool that I need in the shop? No, but it's one of those things that the more I use it, the more I find, oh yeah, I could use it there too. And there are lots of other tools that could do the exact same thing. But having these a little bit heavier, having them machined, these are very, very fun, and I'm using them more and more, and I'm actually interested to see what other ways we can come up with. So I'd love to hear your ideas. What ways could you use these in a shop, particularly with hand tools? Now with power tools, there are hundreds of uses for them. But in a hand tool shop, I'm looking forward to trying new things because the more I use them, the more I like them. And for under 20 bucks, you can pick up a set of these. Now, if I were a machinist, I wouldn't buy the cheaper ones like this because, you know, they might be out by a 10,000th or so. The machinist ones, you generally want to spend about $100 a piece on these. But for woodworking, 10,000, who cares? These actually are well within the range of what is needed for woodworking. So I'm going to be experimenting with these and trying some new things, and I'm kind of looking for other uses for them. Is there something particular that you saw that you think would be a great use? I'd love to hear that, and I might do an upcoming video on that. Especially with adding the mesh and just being able to square things up when you're actually doing joinery or checking things. This would be, I should probably bring these out more. So if you want to see a link to these, I'll leave that down below. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. How do you use them? How would they fit in with hand tools around you? So I think that'll do it for today. I do want to say a huge thank you to all the patrons on Patreon, members on the channel, people who are quite literally keeping this channel going. We are supported by you, the viewers, and without that, we would not be here. So thank you. Everyone who's scrolling on the side is quite literally keeping the lights on in the shop and keeping the channel going. So if you'd like to find out more about that, there's a link to Patreon down below, or you can click the little join button and become a member here on YouTube. I do have special perks for different people on different levels, and thank you for that. I think that'll do it for now, and until next time, have a wonderful day. 1, 2, 3, SpongeBob Steel Pants. You blockhead. These make me wish I live in a 4th dimensional world where we could have a 1, 2, 3, 4 block.